Shoot. What's up, fellas? Back to another episode of the Blind Pig, courtesy of BGObsession.com. Please feel free to come by, mix it up. Let us know what you have to say. Tell us that we're completely crazy. Die on the pedestal that Heineke has a better arm than Wentz, because that tends to happen. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, real quick intros. Top left is John, better known as Boone on the site. Bottom left is Mark. You can call him Ohm. Bottom right is Paul, our brother from the Great White North, Canadian Hog. And I am Derek. You can find me under Silent Threat, or if I say something terrible, under Neophyte, because he's not here to defend himself.
Neophyte, man, he's a problem.
Yep, we'll see. Well, don't tell him that when he gets on, but eventually he will. Anyways, let's we can kind of jump into the meat and potatoes of this thing. But before I go too deep into the football aspect of things, did you guys see the clip of Brian freaking Robinson at practice today working with the running backs?
Yeah.
He was not padded. He was just wearing shorts and a t-shirt, but he was full on doing agility drills and some other things. And
yeah, what, 3 weeks has it been? Like 3 weeks since he got shot?
Yeah, it was it was literally the week after our last preseason game, right?
Yeah.
So only 3 weeks post shot, and he's out there practicing like he thinks he's going to be on the field this weekend.
It's fair to say he's ahead of schedule, what anybody reasonably would have expected from him. It's awesome. I enjoyed that video. Was it last week of him doing the foot agility drills?
Oh yeah,
that was
he was running. I wouldn't say full speed today, but he was running. Think
how different the offense is going to look when that guy is when that guy is back and healthy. It's a whole different dimension to the offense that just isn't there right now.
Yeah, we could have used him last Sunday on several of those short yardage ones that we didn't get.
And just a legit power back running threat right now. I don't think anyone really is taking that very seriously. Gibson is a good kind of scat back and all that, but he's not a first down, you better strap it up kind of guy to defend.
And I don't think he's the kind of, like, when you think of imposing your will on somebody, I don't think Gibson is probably the first 20 people that come to name, or come to mind when you're talking about that. And thinking in Jacksonville, when you're up 14-3 and you need a grinder of a drive to keep your defense off the field, that's the kind of guy that can come in and he can kind of punish you a little bit. He's also the kind of guy, I hope we don't telegraph. I hope it's not like, oh, hey, guess what? Robinson's on the field. We're running the ball between the tackles. But he does bring a different dynamic, one that we don't currently have, one that we all wished we had, kind of wish we had last year, of that, between the tackles, punish you. And if you hit me enough times, you're going to want to give up eventually.
Yeah, don't forget, we saw him catching some passes in preseason. He didn't do that in college, but I think we talked about it. He wasn't really asked to do it. So he looked pretty good catching the ball in preseason. So I would be surprised. I'm hoping he's one of those guys that he can do all of that. And so that, the defense can't key on it one way or the other.
Right.
Here comes our friend Bob.
There he is. Waiting. I
think Scott Turner is going to have so much fun game planning and having that option. He really hasn't. I'm trying to think when's the last time that we lined up that way. I mean, Clinton Portis was not a power back, but he could. I mean, you had to defend him and respect him on first down. But am I missing somebody? Who have we had since then who you would consider? Alfred Morris had a great year or two.
As far as just a workhorse guy?
Well, just a guy that, when I look at Robinson, the way he plays the game, he's a downhill runner. He leans in and he's moving forward, and we just haven't had a guy like that since Stephen Davis, maybe, that sort of body type.
Portis could do it. Portis had that kind of attitude.
Portis was fearless. He was fearless.
I mean, I would say that's the last guy we had that was really like that. Maybe Almo, I guess you got to put him in that same category, but.
Well, we held on to Peyton Barber, to kind of try to fill that role, but he never had that explosion that some of the other guys have had. That, if you let him get past your defensive tackle, he can make a guy miss and he can kind of be gone.
Well, we are 24th in the league in rushing right now, so I expect when we get Robinson in there, I expect that to change pretty quickly. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to add in regards to him is that when I've always thought about like some of Rivera's more successful teams in Carolina, he always had those teams always had that bit of attitude, that bit of nastiness, and that bit of physicality. And when I watched the Detroit game this past weekend, holy cow, did they basically punch us in the mouth. And I think a guy like Robinson can certainly bring that much needed element of physicality that I think Rivera teams are usually known for as well. So it could certainly
be they had Jonathan
air.
Stewart and who was the other guy? I'm trying to remember, but that was a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, they did. They always had that, thunder and lightning type combo. So we're certainly lacking it right now.
Bob, you didn't miss much. We just got into this because Derek was mentioning that the video of Brian Robinson practicing and running pretty much full speed today, and that we just took off on Brian.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's missed, and I think the element that he brings is going to be incredibly important for this team going forward. I'll be honest and tell you, with the blocking I saw, in the highlights from Sunday, I'm not sure Robinson would have made much of a difference. There wasn't a lot of room to run. I don't know what happened to this offensive line between week 1 and week 2, but yeah.
Well, that's a good segue, I guess.
Well, and that speaks to the whole game, right? That Detroit, that first half was as bad a half as we've seen. I mean, it looked like Groundhog Day, right? From the last 30 years. Oh, we've seen this movie. They dug out of it in the second half and played football again. But the first half, and I know this is what we're going to end up talking about, it's like we weren't prepared, and then the players didn't seem to react well, and it was just
despite my prediction, my wrong prediction, Paul was the only one who got it right, I think, last week, or at least that's my memory. I said last week that that this was a team we should beat, and I stand by that. We should have beaten them, and that if we didn't, it was going to be, we were going to be looking at the coaching. And I really think why Ron Rivera teams cannot show up when coming out of the tunnel ready to play, why it takes them 45 minutes to an hour to get warmed up and actually look like a pro football team. I don't understand that. And he doesn't seem to have any answer when he's asked about that. He'll get a lot of mealy mouth, kind of coach speak. But when you go, this is what the numbers were on that first half. We had the ball 8 times, 8 drives, 5 of them were 3 and out. 5. One of the 3 that weren't 3 and outs, they let Wentz get a hard sack and he fumbled the ball away. And then we had 2 drives where we actually got a first down. We had a total of 2 first downs in the entire first half. And there's a lot of things that have to go wrong for something like that to happen. But that's probably the worst half of football I've seen us play that I can, maybe I've cleansed my memory of all the other horrible halves we played over the decades, but that was probably the worst half of football I've seen in a long time.
It was pretty bad.
No, we made Detroit look like the 91 Skins.
And it could have been a lot worse, Bob. The defense held a couple of times. It could have been over, period.
Well, then not only that, Jared Goff handed us 2 drives, right? Wasn't there a couple plays that there was one just floppy ball, I think, after the big run from Swift, and they had it, first and goal from the 6? Goff made a couple mental errors that were just redonkulous. That bailed us out, that made that game stay at 5-0 instead of 10-0.
Oh, it could have been 35. If they had been hitting everything, there was a couple of guys running open that he just missed. Goff doesn't impress me. He doesn't scare anybody, but the way they were running the ball, and frankly, if the offense keeps getting it back every 60 seconds because you're getting the other guy 3 and out, I think our offense might have looked a little better if our defense had been able to get off the field. But as we've seen over and over, they just can't do it. I know we got to talk about the defense. I've been listening to all the local talent on the radio talking about the defense, and it's the same thing we've been talking about. Is it coaching? Is it players? And I think I've changed my tune a lot. I'm so disappointed in the coach's ability to put the players we do have in position to succeed. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
You see guys like St. Just, who's this long corner. He's down in the slot, while you've got Kendall Fuller, who won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs, playing in the slot as one of the best slot corners in the league. We got him back out on the corner, and it's the old square peg and round freaking hole that we've been seeing around here forever. It's just it's so frustrating.
He was one of the best slot corners when he was here.
Yeah.
Before he even went to win a Super Bowl. When he was here, everybody talked about how good of a slot corner he was.
That's why Kansas City wanted him, was because of how good a slot corner he was.
So we bring him back and naturally put him back outside. And if we, I know we have to talk about linebackers, but oh my God. I mean, we're still having this conversation. It has not gotten any better.
Well, it doesn't help when they're on the field the entire first half, and I'm not making excuses for them. But when you're trying to work out your defense and get these guys to play in sync and to play good, solid defense,
and you got all of a minute and a half on the sideline to talk.
Yes, I mean it was a perfect storm for a struggling defense.
Well, what we've seen the last 2 weeks is how easily opposing offensive coordinators are putting our defense in positions where they don't know what to do.
So I want to call, before we move to the defense, I want to double down on the play calling on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Do it.
We had a little bit of
homework this week.
We did. I tried to look into some of it, and I don't understand I don't understand why we keep putting ourselves in a position where we have to play harder than we need to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to put it. There's a thread on the Winsome-meter where if anybody who wants to listen wants to go take a look at it, there are picture documents of it, of where the sack fumble that ended up being a safety. We're dropping Wentz back 5 steps into the end zone, and we're running routes that the break isn't for 18 or 20 yards downfield. And I don't
all the routes.
After watching the Lions pressure Wentz like ferociously, I mean, to their credit, the Lions played their asses off, especially in the first half. So when your quarterback is getting bull rushed and they're getting to him, you've got to change the plan. And I know there was talk about 15 scripted plays. I don't know if that's true or not, but at some point you've got to start either rolling Wentz out or sending guys over the middle, give them an outlet. And I didn't see that. It just looked like we were just going to ignore the fact that he was getting pressured on every play, and he hung on to the ball forever.
Right. And we all came into this season knowing that Wentz has the ability to stretch the field. So I'm not sitting here getting critical of that. I want to be able to utilize the arm. But what I want to see us do is you have 2 routes. You have attack 3 levels of the field, because he can make all 3 levels of the field throws.
Mm-hmm.
Have somebody short, intermediate, and long. And guess what? If the guy on the outside that's going long has the better matchup, give Wentz give him enough power, give him enough flexibility that he can kind of redirect his route tree to be able to look over there and take advantage of it if it's there, but it's not a necessity. I mean, the one play we had, it was basically 4 vertical routes, and then the 2 inside seam guys literally ran arcing routes at each other, which is just bringing more defenders into one area. It was mind-boggling that people are getting frustrated. I'm like, well, Wentz has now got his back plant foot in the ground, and he's gotten another 8 to 9 yards before the wide receiver is even going to turn around. And I understand
mind-boggling. Against the Jags, we ate them alive with short, like Curtis Samuels just individually ate them alive with short yardage catches where he would, make a
right. And then when they would come down, we went intermediate. When you're throwing it to Antonio Gibson 20 yards downfield, it can be there. It doesn't, drove me nuts.
I almost feel like Scott Turner overthought this and got too cutesy with it and designed a game plan for a team that had nothing but 1 week's worth of film of us throwing short. And when they're gonna suck everybody up, so we're gonna come out and we're gonna open up with all these long routes, and before they know it, it's gonna be 14-0. And the problem was their defensive line played like they were all first-round draft picks.
Well, and to get cutesy, you want to talk about cutesy? What's this They watched Detroit run a handoff back throw across the field back to the quarterback bomb, and then we tried it the next series. And I look as supporters of I have been of Wentz, that was one of the worst throws I've ever seen in my life. So he has culpability on that play. Luckily, it didn't get intercepted. But what was the play call?
It was all bad, and the O-line was terrible. That's the thing we haven't really talked about. The O-line, that did not look like a genius.
And that was before Rouillet went down. That was
so the one thing that I want to add in regards to what you're saying,
not to
Derek,
railroad you, Bob.
That trickeration play by Turner happened at 22-0. Are you telling me that you're that desperate that in that moment that is the only play that you can go to? Like, there needs to be an answer. And the thing that I've been questioning, and I think it was something that I may have asked on something that I wrote on the board, but in regards to Scott Turner, are we actually seeing a new and improved Scott Turner, someone who is capable of making this offense function at a high level? The numbers would maybe suggest, yeah, we are, because, we scored 22 points and then we scored 27 last week in Detroit. So from a numbers standpoint, things seem to be all good on the surface, but is it actually improvement, or is some of the increased and elevated talent that we have at the playmaker positions masking some of his deficiencies as a play caller? That's something I'm really curious about.
Well, and here's the other part of that play, Paul. You know who the receiver that was 30 yards downfield was?
Cam Sims.
Cam freaking Sims.
I
got
screamed.
four
I screamed
guys
at the
ahead
TV.
of him.
I screamed at the TV and with some expletives when I saw that. I'm like, why in God's name at this position in the game is he even on the field? And nothing against Cam Sims, but that is not the guy. He's not going to take us to glory. I'm sorry. And I just don't understand who designs that play. He should not even be on the field at that point.
You have four receivers that could make Cam Sims look like I'm running the 40 next to them. And you send him oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Sorry, Bob. I completely railroaded you when you were talking a minute ago. I apologize.
No. You're fine, man. You're fine. And I get it. I share everybody's frustration here. I think, and Paul, I'm gonna say something I don't like saying, but I've been saying it for 2 years that I didn't feel like Scott Turner was the right guy for this offense. And all I've read in the press, I've heard, read on the boards, I've read everywhere, right, is he doesn't have the right talent. I feel like I know I've said this before, so I'm going to sound like a broken record. Coach's job is not to teach the players his system. The coach's job is to go out and design a damn system to work for the players he's got. And there just aren't that many guys left in the NFL that know how to do that. There really aren't. And I question whether or not, even with all the toys, he knows how to design a system that is going to consistently get the best out of his players. I think we just lost Mark. I'm pretty sure Mark is like, oh there he is. He was like totally frozen there with your head down. You look like you were praying for a second there, brother. But
no, that was me on Sunday.
Yeah. It was, I understand the concept of the script. I mean, most of us here go back to the Bill Walsh days when the script was the new shiny thing. And Walsh preached it to all of his disciples, and everybody that ever worked in the Walsh tree had a script of 25 plays, and you don't deviate from the 25 plays. You run those 25 plays in that order. That's the way the teams practice this week. And after that, then we're going to figure out what we're going to do based on the results of those first 25 plays. I'm sorry, if your quarterback is getting sacked in the end zone because the offensive tackle can't handle the rookie that's rushing, you change the damn script. It's not rocket science. You can script yourself right into losing a game.
Well, I got to throw this out there before my internet freezes again. In defense of Scott Turner, a week ago, everyone in the NFL, all the talking heads, were lauding us for the creativity that was off the charts with this offense. And Carson Wentz is going up and down the field as he did in the second half on Sunday. I am not I'm not feeling any less bullish on Scott Turner than I was before. I think he is far from our biggest problem. And I just wanted to throw out the possibility. I don't know this. I haven't studied film, and I don't know what his offense, how much liberty he gives the receivers in their route trees to adjust their routes based on what they see from the defense. And I was looking at some of the breakdowns that you did, Derek, and right, they're all going 20 yards, and he's taking the step. I'm just allowing for the possibility that, as we're seeing on the defense, maybe one of the receivers was supposed to break it off based on the coverage and be there for that outlet pass when he hit the top of his drop. I don't know that, but I know enough about the NFL to know that everybody out there on the offense has options in their routes based on what they see. Sure. Maybe it's not. Maybe the design is fine. Maybe he just hasn't taught it enough. I'm not upset with Scott Turner. I think he's been fine, and I think he and the offense have been light years ahead of where our defense is.
So the other possibility is that those players didn't show up. Like we were not ready to play, and you could see it across the board on offense. So some of it, I'm not giving Scott Turner a pass by any means, but so far for the year, we are 6th in total offense, the second ranked passing offense in the league, and we're 8th in scoring, despite what we've seen, the bad stretches.
Despite taking a half off where they just didn't play.
Right.
Yeah.
You could almost argue almost a whole game.
Yeah.
And that in the second and third quarter of that Jacksonville game, we were all looking around like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. One thing, a follow on what you just said, Mark, I want to clarify, I guess, what I said. I have no problem with Scott Turner's creativity. Even this last week, the guy designs some fantastic plays. I question his ability, and I have always questioned his ability to call the right play at the right time. I question his game management, and I'm just not sure it's there. Maybe he needs to be the guy that draws it up, and we need somebody else who understands how you play chess to actually call the game on Sunday.
I understand all those concerns. I'm not blind to it, and I've been frustrated too. But what I see overall from the offense so far, the first 2 games with a new quarterback and essentially a redesigned offense from what we saw last year, I'm going to be patient on that side of the ball for a while longer. If the offensive line falls apart because of injuries, all bets are off. Then we'll really see how creative he is, right? If he can adjust and fix things once the OL breaks down. But I don't have any issues with Scott Turner yet. And I can't wait to see him with Brian Robinson at his disposal to add the element of a power running game, which we just don't have right now.
We haven't said it. And yeah, the offense ran amok in the second half. We need to talk about the fact that Detroit played a completely different defense in the second half than they did the first half too.
Not until the third drive. I went back and rewatched it today.
Really?
Those first 2 drives, when we closed it to 22-15 and we thought we had a game, Detroit was all up on the line. Those were solid drives. The next drive, once we score to make it 22-15, and on the first play they run a 60-yard, uncontested end around or whatever. When they scored again, then they backed off on the third of our touchdown drive.
Here's where the defense was totally different. Is there was a kid named Aiden Hutchinson who was playing on one leg on those 2 drives, and not to take anything away. Look, the play calling was better. The game plan was executed better. You saw some better things, but at the same time, if Aiden Hutchinson isn't hurt, where are we at?
All right, but we could play that game the other way too.
All day long. I give the offense credit. We like John said, and to further your point, Carson Wentz is second in yards, or no, he's leads the league in yard per game, if I'm not mistaken, and he's tied for second with touchdowns, if I'm remembering off the top of my head. And the only reason he's in second with touchdowns is because Tua threw 6 the other night. And that's why Tua has a lead with so don't get me wrong.
We've scored on every red zone opportunity in 2022. Compare that to the last 2 years. That to me is very encouraging. I was as mad as anyone.
We haven't seen a single fade.
Yeah.
And we haven't forced our field goal kicker to try to make a field goal.
If you could just make an extra point, it would be great.
Is anyone else
Special
nervous
teams
about
field
our
goal.
field goal kicker at this point?
Extremely, because he missed another extra point this weekend.
That cost us the game right there. I know. I'm not kidding. Missing that extra point at that point in the game, we just scored twice, and then missing that extra
He
point,
deflated,
9
completely
points
deflated.
down, that cost us a chance at the game. It's just inexcusable, man.
And then he followed it up with a 5-yard onside kick, which was not the exclamation point he needed. I'm surprised that they didn't bring someone in this week, like publicly.
And I think that missed extra point gets kickers fired in the summer.
Oh yeah. And he missed one in the preseason too, right? Anyway, I'm not going to pile on the kicker. We didn't lose the game. I don't think we lost the game because of the kicker. I think we lost the game because we could not stop the Detroit Lions' potent offense.
There were some amazing plays in that second half. Some of those passes that went through, the very first pass that was caught was Curtis Samuel's for first down, and he got absolutely obliterated. I don't know who hit him, but it held on to the ball. And that kind of, like, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, we might still be in this.
He did that on the touchdown too.
Touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, his touchdown, he got blown up.
Yep.
So can we beat up on the defense yet?
Yes, let's go.
Yeah.
They were really, really, really bad. The whole game. They didn't take just a half off. They took the whole freaking game off. Yeah, they had a couple of stops, but as much as anything, it seemed to me Detroit helped us when we stopped them. Every time we would score, not only did they answer back to score, but they just did it in like 2 or 3 plays, 70 yards, 58-yard end around, uncovered guys. Where in the second half of the second regular season game of the third season of this defense, they still don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Especially the defensive backs. I see, like, there was one where we just let the guy go. It looked like St. Just. I don't know if Fuller was supposed to be on the guy or St. Just, but it didn't look like either one of them knew either.
They didn't know either. That's the problem.
And that's what's so concerning, because that was the big discussion last year, was the communication. Like, the guys the scheme, they weren't comfortable with it. The communication was bad. It doesn't look any better this season to me so far.
It does not. How big a factor is Cam Curl being out these first 2 games been?
But see, that's the thing. I don't know. Derek Forrest has been playing well.
Physically.
They need to find a way to get both those guys on the field.
But not just physically. I mean, hold on.
Cam calls the signals, doesn't he?
Huh?
Cam calls the defensive signals, doesn't he?
Holcomb calls it.
Holcomb is the quarterback.
I mean, for the secondary.
But
I mean, yeah, that could definitely make a difference. As far as play goes, I think Forrest is. I don't think the breakdown has been where Cam Curl would have been.
I was just thinking in terms of communication and organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would hope Bobby McCain would be able to do that, considering he's the vet.
Holcomb's not having a good year either so far, which is concerning because, we talked in the offseason about how he kind of surprised us, how solid he was last season, and maybe he was going to take yet another, step. Not that he was ever going to be a dominating guy in the middle, but I have been surprised that he's not playing well.
I think offensive coordinators are really good at isolating people and making them do their least, whatever they're the least skilled at. I think we've seen Jamin isolated. We've seen Holcomb isolated. Right. Other teams noticed Holcomb last year too, and they're accounting for him now.
Yeah, it's extremely concerning right across the board defensively. To me, it was downright embarrassing this past weekend. You guys mentioned the communication issues. It just seems to be the same things repetitively happening year in, year out. We went back to allowing our opponents to routinely convert on 3rd and longs. I believe the touchdown to Swift, or it may have been a touchdown earlier in the game. I think one of them was like a 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, something of that nature. So we're reverting back to that bad habit. We're also seeing awful angles. We're seeing, guys just whiffing on tackles. That Swift touchdown, which was a huge, huge backbreaker. I think we had 3 or 4 guys that completely missed.
Yeah, and getting gashed. We're getting gashed on the running downs, and we're 28th in the league against the against the rush right now. 28.
John Allen was really limited because they were running right between the tackles, and John, he's a stud, but he was not himself in that game. You could see it.
Well, and on the Swift touchdown, Swift literally fell on his ass, got up, ran past 4 guys into the end zone.
Yeah, that was a proud moment.
You know you're having a bad day at the office when your deep safety is the top tackler on the team.
Yep.
10 tackles, 8 solos for Derek Forrest.
So I don't want
a whole bunch of people in front of him are not getting to the guy they're supposed to get to, is really what that means.
And I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it again. We play this crazy 2 linebacker defense. And even on plays where, I mean, I can't tell it in real time, and I don't go through and study the all 22s on the defensive side, but it seems to me that the teams who routinely stack the line and keep the run under control, the defensive line takes on the OL and the linebackers fill the holes and punish people and make tackles. And that's not the way our defense is set up. We're relying on those down 4 to carry a whole lot of the pass rush load and the run stop load. And I'm not sure what our linebackers are doing exactly.
When you've got 4 down linemen and 2 linebackers, you by definition have 1 gap uncovered.
And teams are finding it.
Absolutely, Mark. Absolutely, they are.
Well,
and they were on the field the entire first half. And I know I've already said that, but I'm saying it again because you cannot separate performance from. You look at any team that wins time of possession. I don't know what the stat is, but I guarantee you they win most of the games they play. If they win,
you're right. That's the whole complementary football thing, right? If you're on the field the whole time. Yeah, Derek, I know. Go ahead, man. I've been running.
Well, no, what I was going to say, if we're going to be critical of the offense, I'm critical of the offensive game plan. I'll be critical of the defensive one. There was a time in the third quarter when the game was close, when we were within a score, I went screaming in the chat because I watched Amon-Ra St. Brown flex out, and who followed him out there was Jamin freaking Davis.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you got to say, nope, timeout, change of personnel. You know what I mean? Like, because that we have already shown that one play can be literally unrecoverable. Luckily, Goff audibled out of a pass and into a run, which made no sense to me. And I actually applauded him for it because it helped us. And I think we actually made a stop. But I don't understand why we make things harder than they need to be. Jamin Davis, we're brought you in here to be a coverage linebacker, so you're going to do it. Well, guess what? It's been 18 months of not coveraging linebackers. How about we make a different decision?
How about we let him cover tight ends, not wide receivers?
The best play he's had in his career was on a stunt blitz. On this podcast, sorry not to go completely apeshit, I literally said, why are we not treating him like Micah Parsons? And why are we treating him like he's a coverage linebacker? He's not. He's a.
It took us a year and a half to tell Landon Collins that he sucked at the position he wanted to play and moved him to one that he could that actually fit his skill set. So I just think, I don't know. It feels like stubbornness at some level, like we're just going to.
I'm glad. I think we're all on the same page with this. I was defending the coaching. I think even I missed last week's pod, but I've been defending Del Rio and the way they are trying to get people deployed. But what I've watched now the last 2 weeks is we got the wrong guys trying to fulfill what he wants them to do. It's shades of old Norv Turner, right? With we're going to run my system. I think our players are a hell of a lot better than what they've looked. And I don't think that Jack's going to change it. I don't think he's going to install a new defense this week.
I take it a step further than that, Mark. I'm watching the system. I'm not too sure about what the NFL hasn't passed this system by.
Maybe.
Unless it looks that way when it's against us.
A hybrid guy like Landon Collins, because let's face it, the best this defense looked last year was before Collins got hurt.
And it was after Sweat and Young got hurt.
Right. We had 2 defensive ends that had to play within the system because they don't have that freakish athleticism to go freelance. And we had Landon Collins, who could move up into the box and he lined up like a safety and then moved up into the box. And lo and behold, now you've got this big front that you weren't expecting. And I don't know why people weren't expecting it because, well, we did it week after week, but it worked for quite a while. We had that,
and he's at home unemployed right now, by the way.
Yeah, we had that stretch run there of like 4 games, and people remember it as the 4 games that Scott Turner suddenly found the run section of the play calling sheet. But the reality is, it wasn't just the fact that we hammered people with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. The defense was playing 3-and-out football, consistently playing 3-and-out football. And we really just weren't giving up much. We cut off the big plays. Oh my gosh, I listened to Rivera's. The only thing more embarrassing this week that I've listened to than the game was Rivera's press conference on Monday.
Yeah, I agree.
And Rivera's press conference on Monday was I didn't even get to the end of it. I could not watch to the end of it because he kept coming back to this. It was one guy or 2 guys and 6 big plays. And I'm like, whose job is it to fix that?
His favorite phrase, Bob, is give them credit. Give them credit. Yeah, we did give them credit. We watched the damn game. We were giving them credit almost on every play. So I'm so sick of hearing give them credit. It's like, you knew they were going to show up and try to win, right? Did anyone talk about that in the coaching meetings? Like, we already knew they were going to try really hard. So for God's sake, stop saying give them credit.
I don't listen to press conferences anymore because they're always frustrating as hell. You're not going to get anything from them,
It's the last one I'm going to listen to. I'll tell you that. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me, man.
And he was eating lunch during it.
and actually, I take that back, Mark. We did get something out of it. What we got out of it is that there are 2 or 3 guys on that defense that they want to pick on. They want to bully in public, and I don't understand that either. Maybe it's because I grew up in the age of Gibbs, and Gibbs never threw a player under the bus ever. That was like rule 1 at Redskin Park was we may yell and scream at people behind closed doors, but to the press, they are our kids and we protect them. And the fact that he did everything but call Jamin Davis by name in that press conference, and maybe he did after I shut it off. I don't know. It feels like from what I'm reading, from what other people said, maybe he did, but I think
he was asked about Del Rio's comments and he was responding to Del Rio's comments, which was legitimately about Jamin Davis. I think it was just kind of assumed.
Arguably the kid had the single best defensive play of the day, right? That stunt blitz you were talking about, Derek. It would have been, I hate to pick on him, Paul, I really do. St. Juice dropped it. That should have been an interception. It absolutely should have been an interception, and that would have been game-changing at that point in the first half. And I watched that, and I just went, we can't catch the ball. We can't defend the ball. I guess it could have been worse. He could have missed it completely, and the receiver caught it. But
so I just want to mention special teams because in addition to the missed extra point, which was a killer, and the onside kick, which was not so good, we also after getting it in the second half to a 1-score game, the very next play, the kickoff, we let them break it all the way down to the 20-yard line. So that was the most deflating play of the game for me because we just pissed away like 2 incredible drives to get back in it. And then what in the hell was Dax Milne thinking the entire game? I like him a lot. But it's kind of like reminds me of Tin Cup, where he keeps saying, give me another ball. And the announcer says, somebody tell this clown he doesn't have to hit it again. It's like, somebody tell Dax, you don't have to run it out of the end zone or from the 5-yard line. We had 1 touchback. He ran it out like 6 or 7 times.
But here's the thing, John. I feel like Detroit was strategically doing that. They stopped him inside they stopped him inside the 25 4 times, inside the 20 3 times. Like, their teams do not fear the guy. He's in many regards the complete opposite of what we had with DeAndre Carter. He does not run with assertiveness. He does not run with conviction.
He just doesn't I don't think he's got the speed to.
I don't think he's a kick returner. He runs fast and he's fearless, but he basically catches it and runs to the pile and falls down. I was not expecting our kickoff coverage and return teams to take as big a step back. They have taken a major step back since last season. I'm not blaming
Well,
Mill.
you know the reason, right? You know the reason, right?
Troy Apke.
Troy Apke.
Oh, there you go. There you go. But Milne doesn't.
And Khalid
He's not a kick returner, right? He's a guy who's pretty fast and fearless, and he was the least sucky option apparently we had left. But he's also, when he's getting swarmed at between the 15 and the 20 on kickoff returns, it's because he's getting swarmed and we're not blocking anybody either. So the special teams have been a disaster so far, minus Tressway.
Well, I hate to say this, Mark. You start to look at Dax Milne. He's not a focal point of the offense. He is at best the fifth wide receiver on a given day. Mm-hmm. Are they finding a reason to justify the draft pick?
I mean, they didn't have any better options, as scary as that sounds. But who else is going to return?
Where's Jarrett freaking Patterson? Like, where's somebody that can be kind of explosive? I'm sure there's other guys out there. I mean, at one point we had Danny Johnson returning kicks more effectively than this.
Right, who did a good job.
I think he's a hands guy. I think they're expecting him to catch the ball and not.
Okay, well, guess what? Don't put somebody back there to recover it, and eventually kick it short. And if you're on the 5 and it goes over your head, let it go. Like
I just go to the coaching. Who's coaching him to receive it and run it out within 10 yards? Like, I've never seen a team knowingly receive kickoffs inside the 10 over and over and over again. Every other team in the league lets it go because it's going to roll outside.
No, not if it's outside the goal line. They let it go if it's into the end zone. If that ball hits and stays in the field of play, that's a live ball. You have to field that. Right? What am I missing there?
No, you're right.
Touch it.
No, that's
on a punt, John. On a kickoff, it's a live ball.
Yeah. In college, you can call fair catch. But I don't think the NFL
on a kickoff, you have to field it if it's in the field of play or it's a live ball. But I'm not. You're not wrong in that our return game is just sloppy, and it doesn't look like they, I hate to say it, but have the right people there. I don't know what happened to our special teams this year.
You need to go listen. See, I'm gonna tell you guys to smell something. I just smelled it was lousy. Go listen to the press conference because Rivera got asked about this.
Oh, this milk, is it bad? Here, smell this.
Exactly. Here, yeah, try this. It sucks. Yeah. Exactly. Go listen to the press conference because they asked him about it specifically. Special teams, kickoffs, Milne bringing it out. Mm-hmm. And Rivera's explanation for the very first kickoff where Milne just got hammered deep was they changed personnel and we didn't know about the new guy and didn't know who to pick up. And I thought, that was
an answer?
Yeah, that was his answer. And I thought, Ron, there's 11 guys. What do you mean? You divvy things up by numbers? No, if I'm the outside guy, I get the outside guy. If I'm 5 in from the end, I count 5 in from the end. That's my guy. I don't understand.
Are you telling me that they
went in this whole explanation about how, they called a guy, they had an injury, so they promoted a guy from special teams and they called a guy up from the practice squad, and we didn't know they called the guy up from the practice squad, and he filled the place of the guy they promoted to a regular position. I mean, oh my gosh, it was a clown car of an explanation.
Well, I feel much better now. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, exactly. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah, it was. I'll tell you what. Nothing. It was confidence inspiring. Let me tell you.
Hey, at the risk of jinxing my boy, you ain't heard nothing about Cam Cheeseman either, have you?
No, that's something to hang our hat on.
Yeah, buddy.
Cheeseman's he's going all pro, baby.
Hey.
So basically, on special teams, we've got the long snapper and the punter. Everyone else is sucking.
Even Tressway had a pretty shitty punt this weekend. And people in chat were like, "Oh, you've even ruined Tressway," but that's all. That he's obviously the least of our problems. Anyway,
so going forward, we've got Jalen Hurts
to play. Can we just stay home this weekend?
Well, we've got Jalen Hurts coming in, and do any of us here feel even remotely confident that Jack Del Rio is going to scheme something up where we're going to contain Jalen Hurts?
No.
I think it could be a shit show out there, and we're going to have to score 30 or 35 to be in the game.
If there is a microcosm of my hope, and it's hope, not confidence, hope, it's Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera. Like, how do we stop Jalen Hurts? Let's put a spy on him. Jamin Davis would be perfect for that. I mean, it would make sense to me.
Well,
I think
we've
you
lost
almost have to.
5 of the last 7 games, setting aside Jalen Hurts, and we know that we don't typically shine when we've got a mobile quarterback under center. That's like our worst nightmare typically. The biggest thing is they've thrown 1 touchdown pass the entire year. All the other 7 touchdowns they have all been on the ground. 3 of them by Jalen Hurts, and the rest by other guys. But I mean, so if we can find a way to stop the run, that's going to be the key to the game. Because now that's not to say they can't beat us through the air. They just haven't had to do that this year.
At this point, EB from the Junkies was tongue in cheek, so I get it, but he's not wrong. Stack the freaking box and say, please try to beat me. And if he beats you, he beats you. You know what I mean? Like,
the question is, can we stop them by stacking the box? Hey, it's just one thing to stack the box. It's another thing to stack the box and stop the run.
Don't go thinking Jalen Hurts isn't throwing the ball.
He is.
He's got a nearly 70% completion percentage. He's thrown for 576 yards. That's not chump change. They just aren't throwing it into the end zone. They don't have to throw it in the end zone. They've got multiple guys that can carry the rock. And when things
he's the second leading rusher on that team, though. I'm just saying, he is the ball, but he's got half as many yards on the ground as he does passing.
The other part of that is that in both games, they've been in complete control for the majority of it.
You're absolutely right. And if we play the way we play, they will be in complete control of the majority of our game, because we're going to come out and cede the first quarter to quarter and a half.
The vast majority of their points, I looked this up on the Skins PR site. They've scored the most points in the second quarter. They have not scored any points in the fourth quarter, and we're the mirror image of that. All of our points have come in the fourth quarter. Almost. Yeah,
because the first game they were up 38-14. The second game they were up 24-7.
So it sets up like the other 2 games where we're struggling from a big deficit and trying to come through in the stretch. It sets up just like last week.
We're going to need the offense to keep pace. I see this one being Jalen Hurts converting 3rd and 4 because someone breaks contain on the pass rush and he gets out and runs for 7.
And that's what happened. It's not like he's running for 80-yard gains. He's not.
He's converting.
Exactly. He's keeping him on the field. He's moving the chains, and he's doing it convincingly.
And then until we see our defense stop anybody, I don't expect them to stop Philly. And I've been trying to think to myself, what is a realistic scenario where we win this game? And I think it's going to be on Wentz and Scott Turner and the ability to outscore them. And I don't know what that looks like. Maybe that's 30, maybe it's 35. I don't think 25 is going to do it. I don't think 27 like we had against Detroit's going to do it. I think Philly scores 30 probably against us.
We need turnovers. We need to force some damn turnovers. We're terrible on turnovers.
We have one, right? We have the one pick to end
almost at the bottom of the league. And they've had a ton of penalties. They've had twice as many penalties so far as we have. So they're going to make mistakes, and we've got to not make mistakes. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculously obvious, but they're penalty prone. That's one of the few areas where they're not doing well in 2022 is they make a lot of mistakes, and we have not made a lot of mistakes so far, but we can't afford to make any bonehead penalties.
You mean like penalties? Yeah. Keeping drives alive with PIs and that kind of thing.
Well, I think the key to this is containing Hurts on the ground and honestly taking AJ Brown away. AJ Brown's been targeted twice as much as any other player, any other receiver in the Philadelphia.
Yeah, you spy Jalen Hurts, you cover Miles Sanders, the running back with a defensive back row safety, and you double team freaking AJ Brown.
They've got three weapons, man. They've got AJ Brown, they've got Miles Sanders, and they've got Dallas Goedert. Those guys have like 90% of all their offensive yards.
Yeah, but fortunately, tight ends never do well against us.
Wow. And
So
he
we'll be
said it with
fine.
an almost straight face. Wow.
What do you think, Paul? What do you think, brother?
Well, obviously starts are important. I put up this horrendous stat in regards to Washington teams under Ron Rivera. I believe we've played a total of 36 games under Rivera, and we have been trailing at halftime in 25 of them. And if you look at the point differential, it is extremely scary as well. When I think back to that game that we played last year in Philadelphia, I know that was the COVID week. I know we had a lot of guys down and whatnot, but they absolutely just hammered us with the run. They smashed the ball down our throat repetitively, and I'm quite concerned if they choose to play that type of game against us on Sunday. I don't know how we're going to hold up on the interior of our defense. There's a lot of holes there. We obviously don't have the depth that we've always had. So I believe that Philadelphia can pretty much do what they want against us. If they want to hurt us through the air using the middle of the field, which we struggled immensely with against Detroit, they can certainly do that. We've been very susceptible on the outside. So, they got some dangerous targets at receiver, but they can go either way, whether they want to throw or whether they want to run. I think that they feel pretty confident about their ability to dictate the pace of play in Washington this week. So I'm obviously extremely concerned as well.
This is a scary thought, guys. We're on the other side. We're usually the team saying, let's control the line of scrimmage. Let's control the ball. Let's use the rushing attack to our effectiveness because we don't want to get into a shootout. Because if we let these guys get confidence and start making big explosive plays like they're capable of, then they're going to hang with us. Philly's thinking that way going into this game. I did see a stat, by the way, that Carson Wentz leads the league in plays over 20 yards, which is just kind of impressive to think about where we were a year ago. But not to go off on a whole nother tangent, I think we are capable of winning this game because I don't think they're in the same position we are where they can score in 4 plays. The X factor there is going to be Hurts. If we let Jalen Hurts run for 25 or 30 and be the chunk guy, they're going to kill us. I don't see how we even hang in there. But if we can, you know what I mean? I don't think they have the explosive wide receivers where you've got to worry about them beating you over the top. What you have to worry about is AJ Brown taking one at 7 and going the distance.
Of course, you're assuming that our guys can use their speed because they know who they're supposed to be covering.
True.
Which has been an issue. And Philly has watched the tape of the last 2 games and they see how easily our defense is confused. They are going to be throwing fronts that we have never seen and motions and formations we have never seen. And I hope our guys are prepared. I hope they've been studying. I hope Jack has given them a little cheat sheet that they can read while they're running down the field. You got this guy, because we look pretty basic out there on defense right now.
I'm not confident. I'm by no means am I confident. All I'm saying is that usually we're the team that we want to dictate the pace because we're afraid the other offense can beat us on any given play. And, now we're kind of that team that we have that ability to beat them on any given play, which is where I think it's going to come down to. We're going to need a shootout. I don't think 25 does it. I think we need to score 30.
So that's what I'm saying. Minimum 30.
Philly comes into this game the toast of the league. Everyone's talking about Philadelphia right now. They're first in total offense. They've won their first 2. I think it's possible they come into this game thinking they've already won the game. I do think that's a factor. They're coming in. I hope we don't do what I'm afraid we're going to do, which is try to stack I want them to stack the box because I think we have a better chance of winning it if they have to do it through the air than on the ground. But I hope we don't try to contain Jalen Hurts to the extent that we're not blitzing and we're not trying to go after him. I want them to go after, because that's the strength of our defense is the pass rush. And I want them to unleash those guys and go get Jalen Hurts.
They
Because
better
I
stay
think
in their lanes. They better stay disciplined. He'll gash them. That's been our
he'll gash us if we stack the box. We've seen it before where they
right. We're losing this way. We
he's gonna get some yards on the ground. We're not gonna totally stop him. Yeah. But I just think the best chance we have is to put the fear of God into him at home. This kind of a desperation game for us, I think. I mean, I don't go in 1-2. I know it's a long season, but especially if the defense plays poorly, it's going to be hard to rebound from that.
I guess I'm not sure about that whole at home thing. I saw an interesting note today on Twitter.
Yeah.
All of the Philadelphia Eagle travel agencies are out of tickets and packages for the Washington game this weekend.
Yeah, we're not going to be
sold out. I dare say the stadium's going to have as many Eagle fans as it does Commander fans, if not more.
I saw that our ticket brokers are tagging Philadelphia, hashtagging Philadelphia as they're talking about available seats. So, I don't think the team really cares.
It may well be half Philly fans, but if you guys notice, that's not unique to Washington anymore. I'm watching games around the league, and there are at the Packers game, every time Chicago made a play, there was a roar. Watching the Rams, the half of their stadium.
The Buffalo Rams game, man. People flying all the way out from Buffalo.
It's changed. Washington's not the only place that gets invaded, but we're probably still the leaders in the clubhouse for just how loud it gets for the other team.
It gets magnified. It gets magnified because we always allow the visitor to have success as well. I mean, if we gave those guys no reason to be getting up and cheering, then it wouldn't be an issue.
So I'm just going to say we can win this game. We can. This is actually the kind of game we do win. But when there's no reasonable chance to win, and then we go out and look a lot better than we expect.
Yeah, this is the perfect game that we show up and.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. Right. It's not like they're not the defending Super Bowl champions. It's fucking Philadelphia, and they have a lot of weapons.
In most of their
it's a week by week league. It's not a given that we're going to get torched.
Is anybody picking the Commanders this week from the five of us?
No,
I'm not picking them on the podcast. I picked them in pick them because I can't bring myself to not pick.
Yeah, I picked us this last week because I was still believing and hoping that year 3, this was the year that the Rivera thing was going to take over and we'd be this solid NFL franchise and all that. I don't know who we play the week after. I was just going to go look at our schedule, but
next week is Dallas.
I will not be picking us this weekend.
No, Philadelphia plays Dallas next week. Not us.
We play Dallas. Philly plays Jacksonville.
The Giants.
No,
right?
Jacksonville.
Oh,
I was just looking at their schedule.
Go Trevor.
Jacksonville. Wait. I think Jacksonville deserves a note here.
Yeah.
After our opening week. After the opening game, and how we talked about the way we made the Jacksonville offense look lost and everything that was done to Lawrence, and all he did was blank Indianapolis this last week. I mean, I kind of had to snicker through my tears because I'm watching that score roll up and I'm thinking, Wentz ain't looking so bad now, is he?
Yeah, I had a little Schadenfreude moment myself, Bob, about that. It's like, clearly Carson Wentz was the problem against Jacksonville.
And Matt Ryan is the clear upgrade over.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Carson Wentz didn't get shut out in any game last year in an Indianapolis uniform. So
did not.
Carson Wentz is not in the top 10 of problems that this team has. I'm just going to say
not
that.
Even in the top 5.
But hold on. To be fair, he is the most polarizing.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
And he's probably had 3 or 4 throws that should or could have been intercepted that weren't. But he also didn't. You know what I mean? So there's a whole bunch of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Guess how many shoulda, coulda, wouldas we had last year with, our guy shoulda, coulda, woulda caught it, or our guy shoulda, coulda, woulda picked up that block, or coulda, whatever.
And every quarterback in the league has that, man.
Yeah,
yes.
Which one of you guys said, was it you, John, that said every quarterback, every game has a ball or two that gets dropped that could have or should have been picked off.
That's baked into the cook. That's baked into the dish.
Joe Burrow just dropped a 3 or 4 interception game the other day, didn't he?
4-interception game to start the season, and then he didn't do great against. I don't remember what he did against Dallas.
Yeah, he's having a hard
wasn't
time
great.
throwing off his ass. I mean,
Yeah,
he's on the
exactly.
ground.
Torn cartilage in
But
his rib.
Joe Burrow's supposed to be the MVP this year. All I'm saying is, to John's point, everybody ain't perfect, and nobody, you know what I mean? Like none of the players in the league, none of the quarterbacks in the league are completely infallible.
No,
Right.
and when it comes to our team, Carson Wentz is not the reason that we lost to Detroit.
And in fact, Carson Wentz is probably one of the few reasons we even had a chance to win that game.
Yep, I agree. I mean, he is so far off the radar for me as to the main problems on this team. I'm pretty happy about what I've seen so far. I mean, it's 2 games in. You know, we'll ask me again after week 8. But
well, what did we say? What did we say coming? There's going to be throws that every one of us is like, but then there's going to be throws every one of us is like, we have never had a quarterback that could make that throw.
Yeah, I think the holy cow throws have far outnumbered the
one. It was Samuel, right, at the goal line where he got smacked and he got the wind knocked out of him. You could see him kind of laboring to walk across back. That was a freaking seed to put right on the spot. There was another one, I believe it was to Logan Thomas.
The touchdown to Logan Thomas across the middle was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, he's been overthrowing Logan Thomas like all season, but he's starting to get it dialed in now.
And we haven't talked about that either. How big is that to have a healthy Logan Thomas back?
And he's not even 100% yet. I don't think he'll be 100% till week 8 or 9.
We might see our rookie tight end at some point here.
Cole Turner.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing to think about, though, with this is we're frustrated. Right now, we're still missing Cam Curl, who was arguably our defensive player of the year last year, right? A lot of that is graded on a curve because he was a 7th-round pick.
On the secondary, John Allen was the defensive player of the year.
True. Yes, you're right. You know what? I admit, I agree. But then behind that, we also don't have Chase Young, and I'm not going to put a ton of stock in Chase Young, but
it's kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal. You know what I mean? So, and then add into that a healthy Logan Thomas. I mean, those are 3 players that coming into last season, well, throughout last season, we looked at that those guys are some of the most pivotal players on either side of the ball.
I'm worried about the O-line guys, and we haven't talked about that. I know we're getting long here, but we lost Chase Roulier. We have 2 of our backups or 2 of our main guys that are on the injury list right now, like Schweitzer and I think Sadiq Charles are both on the injured list. Mm-hmm. I'm just worried about who the hell's suiting up on Sunday on the O-line because it looked pretty scary bad on Sunday.
Well, and even guys that are healthy are not necessarily looking great at the moment.
Cosme has been.
Cosme and Leno both had games to forget on Sunday.
Yeah.
I blame our offensive line coach.
No,
hey, Paul, what's his name again? No, I'm sorry.
Careful. I'm not going to come through the screen at you, Mark.
No, but my biggest concern with the offensive line, and it was really magnified in the Detroit game, but our guard play to me is terrible. I haven't been impressed with the way Norwell has played to start the season. Opening week, he had 2 illegal hands to the face penalties. And I'm sorry, but I don't think Trey Turner at this point in his career is going to be of any effectiveness for us. We seem a little long in the tooth at the guard position.
You can see why Jacksonville was willing to let Norwell go, can't you?
Well, I mean, it's really early in the season, but again, there's a lot that, that is left to be desired at this point.
Well, and the other kind of scary part of that is we've lost Chase Roulier again for another year.
Yeah, he may not ever be the player we thought he was going to be.
Well, I think he was the player we thought he was going to be, but then the injuries caught him. You know what I mean?
Right. After a second year of missed, it's going to be hard to come all the way back.
He's on. You hate to say it, but he's almost he flashes a Jordan Reed. Hey, this guy's really good when he's on the field, but he's not on the field.
Well, we're kind of patchwork on the OL heading into Philly, and they've got a pretty stout front 4. They'll be coming.
I think Schweitzer's playing center, right?
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
I think he'll be good to go.
With Ricky Martin or whoever it is that we just signed off the waiver wire, right? Yesterday is going to be his backup.
Yeah, but I think John Toth is going to be the primary backup if I read correctly. But We got to help. Like, not to go even further, there was literally a play where John Bates was isolated on Aiden Hutchinson, man to man to block, and he actually did enough where Carson Wentz could have got the ball out if the route tree wasn't in 4 vertical, like it was out of Madden. So I hope, because look, I don't want another OC. I don't want another head coach. I don't want another defensive coordinator. God. And it has nothing to do with the nameplate on their desk. It has everything to do with the fact that I want my damn team to win football games. And I hope these 3 guys do it because I don't want to deal with another change. So I hope Turner and Rivera sit down with, Zampese, with the entire offensive staff and say, what do we need to win? Get the ball out quickly, take care of the ball, and let's not run a 3 and out that runs 45 seconds off the clock and just puts our defensive line back out there in the blink of an eye.
Amen.
All right. Mark asked the question earlier. Who you picking?
Eagles by 10.
John?
I mean, I really don't. I'm at a loss. Do I think we're going to win?
Nope.
No.
Do you want to believe
I
it,
think
though?
we could win? Absolutely.
Me too.
So do with that what you will. Pretty much like last week. I think we can beat Philly. Philly is not, they're not Kansas City. They're not the Rams. They're a good team. They're probably the best, most talented team in the NFC East right now, but they can be beaten.
Absolutely.
Well, to
but
me,
do you think it happened?
It's a division game. Philly knows this as well as anybody. They know the strengths, they know the weaknesses. They play us twice a year. I see them. No, I don't think we're going to win the game. I think they will probably have a 10-point lead going into the 4th quarter. We'll keep it close, but I think they end up winning like 34-28, something like that.
They have a 10-point lead going into the 4th quarter. We will win. Because we're scoring almost all of our points in the 4th quarter, and they can't score in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, but our defense will have to be on the field at some point.
Yeah, so John, what you said in regards to the Eagles being able to be beaten, I totally agree with that. But the issue is that we always make these kinds of teams feel like they're better than they really need to be. Like Detroit, for instance, they're going to trot out there probably next week at Minnesota, I believe, and they're going to look like your typical Lions. We always seem to help other teams look like world beaters when they really don't need to be. To me, the frustrating thing about Philadelphia right now is in a short span of time, they are representing everything that we want this team to be. They got Sirianni and they seem to be clicking and things just seem to be starting to head in the right direction for them in a short amount of time. And here we are now in year 3, and 2 weeks into the season, it kind of feels like we're reverting back to some of those bad habits and just kind of spinning our wheels type thing. I lost a lot of confidence in this team, unfortunately, last week in Detroit, and I feel like it is going to be ugly. I think, unfortunately, that we're going to lose by, I don't know, I want to say 17 to 22, 23 points. I think it's going to be bad. I hope I'm dead wrong.
No, but that's very, very possible, my friend. I think
Paul,
we storm back late to make it look respectable.
Paul, how happy are you that you didn't actually cross the border and go to that game, brother?
Well, there were other reasons as to why I didn't go, obviously, but yes. And that's the thing. I've often gone to the Detroit game. And as I said last week, it's always tighter than it needs to be against them. And I just didn't feel right about it. But yes, I'm very, very happy that I watched it from my home. And, I was cursing quite quickly, and that game just brought me down completely. It was atrocious.
So I've always been an agnostic, but when my DirecTV went out right at the end of the first half, I thought maybe there is a Jesus. I had to watch it. I had 3 days to calm down before I went back and actually watched the second half. But.
So I don't think we're going to win. I like John. We can win. We absolutely can win. In fact, I'm bullish enough on this team that there aren't too many teams in the league right now I don't feel like we can beat. I'm happy enough with the way the offense is clicking when it's clicking. That there isn't a team in this league that can run away and hide from us offensively. Carson Wentz and our wide receiver core can go toe to toe with Kansas City. They could go toe to toe with Sapperd, that Tua, who had a fantastic game against Baltimore this last weekend. We can play stride for stride with him too. I'm worried about the other side of the ball, and I got two things that I'm going to throw out there. And the first one is that Philadelphia isn't just leading the league in offense. They're top two in rushing offense. That scares me. That really scares me, especially with John Allen not being completely healthy. Although, I mean, he did practice in full today, according to the list that John posted on the board. But, you know, he was supposed to be on a pitch count this last week, and he wasn't because injuries. And and I'm sorry, but all the Commander fans that are excited about stealing John Ridgway from the Cowboys, I'll tell you what, there aren't any Cowboy coaches losing sleep tonight because we picked John Ridgway up off waivers. They weren't planning on playing that kid this year at all, unless injuries forced him to. So he probably not the answer. And the second statistic is that Philadelphia is, again, top 5, top 5 in turnovers, takeaways. We are not taking the ball away.
Nope.
You know, and I don't think we've been horrible as far as giving the ball away either. We really haven't been horrible. But the problem is, if you're not taking the ball away, it magnifies those turnovers that the offense does have, because you don't have any of your own to hang your hat on. And I'm worried about both of those statistics. I can totally see us, you know, losing a fumble and throwing an interception this weekend and not getting anything in return, either fumble or interception. And if Philadelphia comes in here and owns the clock with the ground game and they get a couple of turnovers and we don't, I don't see any way we win this game. I see us chasing it in the fourth quarter, and like several people before me, I see it being close, and I see it being a moral, hey, look what we did. Look what we did chasing the game. We were 21 points down in the middle of the third quarter, and we only lost by 3. You know, and that's great, but it's still a loss. And that's
got to win
what I see.
Battle in this one, man. That absolutely killed us on Sunday. We're just not a good enough team to be playing from inside our own 20 every time, you know, and we did that multiple times, especially anywhere. Oh my God, if we're dropping back in the end zone, you don't just close your eyes. You don't want to see it.
Bring us home, Derek. Make us feel good.
I already said the Eagles would by 10.
Oh yeah, you did. Damn it.
I want to believe we can win. I do believe we can win. I believe we can win any given Sunday. I believe we can show up against the Steelers when they're undefeated and end up winning that game on a COVID week. I believe
on Monday night.
It was actually Tuesday night, right? Didn't it?
That's right.
Yeah,
it
they
was.
delayed it, right?
That's right.
So we could field a team.
But it was a primetime game. I mean, come on.
I believe we can beat the Packers 41-14 or whatever that stupid game was. I believe we can destroy Dallas on Thanksgiving. But here's the other problem. As many times as I've believed it, the team's proven me wrong. Okay? So I don't have enough, and this is going to sound really bad, but I've reached the point I don't have enough confidence in the coaching staff that the team's going to be ready to win this game. I think if anybody,
I agree with you on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's the whole referendum on this season and on Rivera's early tenure in Washington is, can his defensive coordinator get these guys to play even top 18 in the league football? Right. Just be okay. They're not even that right now. So
right now you're talking John Allen's playing 90% of the snaps right now. Yep. So guess what happens? His effectiveness goes down because half of his game he's just filling gaps. You know what I mean? And we talked about it a little bit in the chat, not to go off on another roll now that we're at almost 90 minutes, but you've created a hole because you let go of Settle and Ioannidis, and maybe they wanted to leave, maybe they didn't, who knows. But then you draft a guy by Mathis and he goes down. Now we're right back where we were last year when we were talking about a bad defense You created the same problem when it comes to kick returner. Maybe DeAndre Carter wanted to go. Maybe he didn't. Guess what? He's a hell of a lot more valuable than the guy you spent the draft pick on in Dax Milne right now. Is the 5th wide receiver that we have on this roster, or 6th.
This is a short week for Philly, right? I just wanted to.
Yes, they played last night.
They
played Monday night, and they held. I mean, they throttled Tennessee, but Tennessee.
I'm reaching for every straw I can think of.
It is a short week. I think we're going to be in a situation where we don't have the home field advantage, despite the fact that our colors are the ones in the zones. But are we capable of winning? Sure. It's going to come down to coaching. I think the players have the ability. I think the guys on the field are talented enough to win this game. I think the guys on the field are talented enough to win 14 of the 17 games we play this year. I think it's going to come down to coaching. Are we asking Wentz to do more than he needs to do? Are we asking Gibson to do more than he needs to do? Are we asking Allen to do more than he needs to do? You know what I mean? Are we asking Davis to do more than he needs to do? I'm afraid we're not going to do that. My personal opinion, put Davis on Jalen Hurts and say, be damned, that guy better not cross the line of scrimmage. Don't give a shit about anything behind you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Use your weapons. Use your speed. We have some of the best cover corners in the league because we've seen it in Will Jackson and in Kendall Fuller, and we're asking them to play shell zones, and then we're wondering why guys are running free. I can't explain that, and that is why I don't have confidence. So that's why I think it's a 10-point loss, and it might even be worse than that, like you said, and then there's a couple stupid touchdowns late that make us believe that we still have a solid offense.
My advice, if we lose by 10 or more, is stay the hell off social media. Because
I'll be at the beach.
It's already pretty ugly.
I'll be at the beach. I honestly, part of me was wondering if Del Rio wasn't fired this week. I think that guy's on a counter. I think you're going to see, he is going to be the sacrificial lamb, and it might happen week 4, 5, or 6.
I heard somebody discussing that on the radio today, Derek. The problem is, ain't nobody ready to step in and fill his shoes either.
Yes, there is. Ron fucking Rivera. The guy's a defensive coordinator at heart.
Well, all right. Yeah. And then I guess that makes him effectively, he has to be the D coordinator, but
let him do it.
There's nobody else on the team.
How long has it been since Ron was a defensive coordinator, though? Was he ever his own defensive coordinator in Carolina?
I think he came up as a DC, didn't he?
He did, but he coached what, 11 years in Carolina?
He was not the DC there
at all, ever, was he?
So from 99 to 2003, he was the Eagles linebackers coach with Andy Reid. And then I think he went to Carolina after that. So I don't know when the last time he was a DC.
That was 19 years ago.
You know, so I mean, the question becomes if granted it's a big if, but if the league has passed Del Rio and his system by, how much worse would it be for a guy that hasn't been a defensive coordinator in at least 15 years?
I didn't say he would be better. I just said I think Del Rio is going to be the sacrificial lamb.
We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on in the locker room either. There's a lot of, people post KKK memes that are
I know
directed at the DC.
But think about it. Think about it.
Sometimes
our offense is averaging high 20s per game. Our quarterback is top 5 in almost every measurable statistical category that matters. And then now we're losing the way that we're losing. It's going to be very easy for Rivera to look at that and say, I got my offense. Your defense ain't cutting it. We ain't been cutting it for 2.5 years. It's time to move on. And we're going to do
Greg Williams. Is he employed right now?
So, Derek, that's the conversation. I think week 2 is too early, but I tell you what, another 2 or 3 performances by the defense that look like Sunday, and that conversation is very real.
The next 4 games are Philly, Dallas, Tennessee, and Chicago.
If Cooper Rush lights us up, maybe that'll do it.
Those 4 games are not screaming offensive juggernauts.
Nope.
Philly's about the only one you really worry about right now. So
we'll do fine against Derrick Henry because we're stout against the run. I'm sorry, I'm like all snark this week. I've been snarking.
Well, anytime even better, we'll be great against the Bears because you know how we do with running quarterbacks and Justin Fields, right?
I'm just impressed that you're doing it all with a straight face. It's the snark with the perfectly straight face.
I work for the government, man.
All
What can
right,
I tell
gentlemen.
you?
I think we've beat each other up enough for one night, but I think we can win. Will we?
Tune in next week.
Tune in about
Same BGO channel.
That's right.
Love you guys,
All right.
man. This makes
Yep.
it easier to be able to do this.
That's right. Night, fellas.
Bye.
Night, guys.